Far beyond the forests of Black Mountain Castle stood a forgotten castle hidden beneath constant fog and storms. Villagers feared the place for centuries. They believed an evil spirit haunted its halls every night after midnight. Nobody entered willingly. Nobody returned unchanged. One cold evening, a traveler named Adrian arrived in the nearby village searching for shelter before the storm grew worse. Inside a crowded tavern, frightened villagers immediately warned him about the castle on the mountain. "Stay away from Black Mountain," an old man whispered nervously. "The ghost still walks there." Adrian smiled slightly. "You really believe ghosts exist?" The tavern became silent. An elderly woman near the fireplace slowly looked toward him. "My husband entered that castle 20 years ago," she said softly. "Only his horse came back." Thunder echoed outside. Rain slammed against the windows. Adrian looked toward the distant mountain where flashes of lightning revealed the dark shape of the castle. Unlike the villagers, he felt curiosity instead of fear. Late that night, carrying only a lantern and a backpack, Adrian climbed the narrow mountain path toward the ruins. The deeper he traveled into the forest, the colder the air became. Strange whispers moved between the trees. Sometimes he thought someone walked behind him, but every time he turned around, the forest stood empty. Finally, through heavy fog, the castle appeared. Massive towers rose above the cliffs like giant shadows. Broken windows reflected lightning, while old iron gates creaked slowly in the wind. The moment Adrian entered the courtyard, his lantern flickered violently. Then he heard it. A woman crying somewhere inside the castle. The sound echoed through the dark halls. Adrian followed it carefully through corridors covered in dust and cobwebs. Ancient paintings stared down at him from the walls. Suddenly, every candle in the hallway lit by itself. Adrian froze. At the far end of the corridor stood a pale woman wearing a long white dress. Her glowing eyes stared directly at him. A ghost. The spirit slowly raised one hand and pointed toward the upper tower. Then a whisper filled the castle. "Leave before midnight." The doors behind Adrian slammed shut instantly, and somewhere above him, footsteps began moving across the ceiling. Adrian rushed toward the castle entrance, but the heavy wooden doors refused to move. Something unseen held them shut. Behind him, the ghostly woman remained motionless beneath the candlelight. The storm outside grew louder while thunder shook the ancient walls of Black Mountain Castle. Adrian slowly stepped backward. "What do you want from me?" he asked nervously. The ghost said nothing. Instead, she turned silently and floated toward the staircase leading into the upper tower. For several moments, Adrian hesitated. Every instinct told him to run, but curiosity pushed him forward. He followed the spirit through narrow hallways covered in dust. Strange whispers surrounded him constantly, sounding almost like trapped voices hidden inside the walls. As he climbed higher, the air became freezing cold. Then Adrian noticed something terrifying. The old paintings hanging beside the stairs had changed. The people inside them were no longer facing forward. They were staring directly at him. One portrait showed a noble family standing outside the castle centuries earlier. But where the father's face should have been, there was only darkness. Suddenly, a loud scream echoed above him. Adrian ran toward the tower room. Inside, hundreds of candles burned around an old wooden chair. Strange symbols were carved into the stone floor. And hanging on the wall behind the chair stood a portrait of the ghost herself. But in the painting, she was alive. Beautiful. Human. Beneath the portrait, a name was written, Lady Evelyn Blackwood. The ghost suddenly appeared beside Adrian. This time tears rolled down her pale face. "They trapped me here," she whispered painfully. Before Adrian could answer, the tower door slammed shut violently. Dark shadows began spreading across the walls. A deep growling sound filled the room. Then another figure slowly emerged from the darkness behind Evelyn. A tall shadow with glowing red eyes. Unlike Evelyn, this spirit radiated pure hatred. The entire castle trembled. The ghost looked toward Adrian in terror. "He's awake." The shadow creature stepped forward slowly, and the castle clock suddenly began striking midnight. The final bell echoed through Black Mountain Castle as midnight arrived. Darkness swallowed the tower room instantly. Only Evelyn's glowing figure remained visible beside Adrian, while the shadow creature slowly approached through the blackness. Its red eyes burned like fire. Its body twisted unnaturally as if made from smoke and bones. Adrian stumbled backward in fear. "What is that thing?" Evelyn's voice trembled. "My husband." Lightning exploded outside the tower windows. For a brief moment, Adrian saw the creature clearly. Centuries earlier, Lord Blackwood had searched for immortality using forbidden rituals hidden beneath the castle. According to legend, innocent villagers disappeared during dark ceremonies performed deep underground. But something evil answered his rituals. Something not human. The shadow creature screamed with an inhuman voice that shook the walls themselves. Candles exploded across the room. The castle began collapsing around them. Evelyn grabbed Adrian's arm with freezing hands. "You must destroy the seal beneath the castle before sunrise, or his spirit will escape forever." Suddenly, the floor cracked open beneath them. Adrian and Evelyn fell into hidden tunnels far below the castle. Deep underground, Adrian discovered an ancient chamber filled with bones, broken chains, and symbols painted in blood across the walls. At the center stood a massive black crystal glowing with red energy. The shadow creature descended slowly from the darkness above them. "You cannot stop me," it growled. Whispers filled the chamber like trapped souls crying in pain. Adrian realized the crystal was the source of the curse. Without thinking, he grabbed a burning torch and threw it against the glowing stone. The chamber exploded with light. The creature screamed in agony as cracks spread across its shadowy body. The curse had begun to break, but the castle above them started collapsing faster. And sunrise was still far away. The underground chamber shook violently as pieces of stone crashed from the ceiling. Red light from the broken crystal illuminated the darkness beneath Black Mountain Castle. The shadow creature screamed with rage while black smoke poured from its body. Adrian backed away as the ground cracked beneath his feet. "You destroyed the seal," the creature roared. "Now we all die together." Evelyn stepped between Adrian and the monster. For the first time, her ghostly form began glowing brighter than before. The chamber suddenly filled with whispers. Hundreds of pale figures slowly appeared around the walls. Lost souls. The spirits of villagers trapped inside the castle for centuries. Adrian stared in horror as transparent faces emerged from the darkness around him. Men, women, even children stood silently watching the creature with glowing white eyes. Evelyn looked toward Adrian sadly. "My husband fed their souls to the darkness beneath the mountain," she whispered. "They were never allowed to leave." The shadow creature charged forward violently. But suddenly the trapped spirits grabbed its body. Ghostly hands pulled at the monster from every direction. It screamed furiously while dark energy exploded across the chamber walls. The spirits were fighting back. Adrian noticed the broken crystal pulsing again. Even damaged, it continued feeding power into the creature. "How do we stop it completely?" he shouted. Evelyn pointed toward an ancient stone altar near the edge of the chamber. A rusted sword rested there covered in old symbols. The blade was forged to end the curse. Adrian rushed toward the altar while the spirits struggled to hold the creature back. The moment he touched the sword, freezing energy traveled through his entire body. Strange visions flashed inside his mind. He saw Lord Blackwood performing rituals centuries earlier. He saw innocent villagers chained inside the chamber. And he saw Evelyn herself trying to stop her husband before being murdered by him. The truth terrified Adrian. The shadow creature suddenly broke free from the spirits and lunged toward him. Its claws nearly reached his throat. But Adrian raised the sword instinctively. Blue light exploded through the chamber. The creature froze instantly. Then the castle clock above them began ringing again. One final hour remained before sunrise. The chamber beneath Black Mountain Castle trembled violently as Adrian held the glowing sword toward the shadow creature. The monster backed away for the first time. Its burning red eyes filled with fear. "You don't understand what you are doing," it growled. "Without me, the castle will fall." Evelyn slowly stepped beside Adrian. This place should have died centuries ago. The trapped spirits surrounding the chamber began glowing brighter. Their whispers echoed like a storm through the underground ruins. Above them, thunder shook the mountain while cracks spread across the castle walls. Sunrise was approaching. The shadow creature suddenly screamed and charged toward Adrian one final time. Dark smoke exploded around the chamber. The spirits tried stopping it, but the creature tore through them violently. Adrian tightened his grip on the sword. At the last possible second, He drove the glowing blade directly into the creature's chest. The chamber erupted with blinding light. The monster screamed so loudly the entire mountain shook. Cracks spread across its shadowy body like broken glass. Then, slowly, the creature began turning into black ash. For several seconds, everything became silent. The curse was ending. Evelyn smiled weakly as her ghostly form slowly faded into white light. "Thank you," she whispered softly. The trapped spirits around the chamber began disappearing one by one, finally free after centuries of darkness. But suddenly the ground collapsed beneath Adrian's feet. Without the curse holding the castle together, Black Mountain itself began falling apart. Stone pillars crashed around him while tunnels filled with dust and fire. Adrian ran desperately toward the surface as the underground chamber collapsed behind him. Finally, just before sunrise, he escaped through the ruined courtyard. The moment he reached the forest below, the entire castle collapsed into the mountain with a deafening roar. Dust and smoke covered the sky. Black Mountain Castle was gone forever. Days later, villagers climbed the mountain searching for answers. But they found only broken ruins buried beneath stone and ash. No bodies, no ghosts. Nothing remained except silence. Yet, even today, travelers crossing the mountains during storms still claim they sometimes see a pale woman standing among the ruins, watching quietly beneath flashes of lightning before disappearing into the fog.